In this segment of the video, I want to talk to you about key differentiators. In some industries or fields, or some marketers like to call it unique selling proposition or unique sales proposition. That's what we call USP. But for the purpose of this video, I'll just be talking about it in terms of key differentiators. The name says it all. Now, you have to differentiate yourselves in a way that your prospects or your customers look at you and say, hey, they've got something which other people don't have, or they can do something better that in a way that other people can't do. While not exactly encapsulating the whole essence of the book called Blue Ocean Strategy, you might want to pick up this book at Kinokuniya or Amazon.com. They have this great book called Blue Ocean Strategy where they talk about the concept and principles about the red oceans versus the blue oceans. The concept is simple. If you're in the red ocean, pretty much it's a cutthroat industry where everybody is simply trying to outsmart, outmaneuver, outsell each other. So the thing is, the concept really circles itself around the idea that there is a finite number of customers in the marketplace. So what happens is that if everybody is trying to outmaneuver everybody else, if everybody is trying to kill the competition, if Tuition Center A gets more customers, it goes on to say that B loses customers. So again, if A makes more customers this year, B is going to lose their customers. So that is really what we call the red ocean, where there's lots of biting and eating each other, causing the ocean to be full of blood, and it's called a red ocean principle. Now, the blue ocean principle is something which is really unique, a concept popularized by the authors in 2005, and they actually spoke about creating new boundaries, really just stretching out the amount of possibilities and the market which you think exists. So, for example, a tuition center would now differentiate themselves along the lines of being truly unique and doing something which other competitors have not even thought of doing before, or felt as if the barrier to entry was too high, therefore they chose not to enter that particular niche that you're in. Now, having said that, let me go on to explain the why of the Blue Ocean Strategy, the why of key differentiating your business compared to the other tuition centers. The reason why a lot of people think that it's really important for your business to differentiate itself in terms of the few components that I'll be sharing with you in a while is very simple, really. It's because it's as if you are operating or doing a business in a vacuum, and whatever the other competitors do is irrelevant to what you're doing, because you have your own particular set of customers who are loyal to you and who only buy from you. So that really is the key benefit of differentiating yourself. Some of the ways that you can differentiate yourself, the how. We've gone through the why. Now let's go through the how. How do you really differentiate yourself? The first way that you can differentiate yourself is the S, which stands for specializing. Okay? It means that you really specialize yourself in a field or in a niche or a subset of your industry. So I'll give you an example why it's really important for you to specialize. Let's take the example of a doctor. If you have skin problems, let me ask you this quick question. Would you go to a GP, a general practitioner, or would you go to a skin specialist? And let's assume that you actually have quite a serious skin disorder right now. I think that you would go for the skin specialist because you want to get over this disease as quickly as you can. But the issue is this. The specialist always gets more. They get paid more, much more than the general practitioner. On the same vein of my logic, if you will, imagine that you're out there and you want to buy a pet bird. Let's say it's a parrot, okay? And in your neighborhood, there are actually two pet shops. Pet shop A actually sells everything. They sell dogs, they sell pet parakeets, they sell turtles, they sell cats, they sell hamsters. Okay, so we call them the GP. They are the generalists, they sell everything. Now, imagine if you have another shop, a pet shop in your neighborhood let's call him B, and he's a specialist. It specializes in, you guessed it, birds. So they are the specialists. And as I was mentioning, you were actually looking for parrots to buy for your son or for your wife or your husband as a birthday present and so on. And which shop would you go to? Would you go to the shop selling everything, ranging from turtles to birds, to cats, to dogs, or would you rather go to the specialist shop because they have a wider selection of birds only and probably a wider selection of parrots as well? So it only makes sense for you to try to specialize in a niche or in a subset of your market so that you can get more customers and you can get paid higher as well. Now, let me just quickly share with you the other ways in which you can specialize. The first way that you can specialize is what we call age group. You go by age group. So for example, instead of positioning your tuition center as a center which serves everybody between the ages of 8 to 21, you could, for example, be like Mindlever and focus and concentrate on A-level economics. So you would be known as the go-to center for economics, or you could be a tuition drama center for English, for example, for kids the age of primary 1 to primary 6, no more, no less. Now you may think that you're really severely limiting your target market, but if I may just remind you, is it better to be a GP? Yeah, everyone can go to a GP for all kinds of illnesses, but a specialist gets more money and they get more customers more frequently and at a much more affordable rate. It's easier to market out to people who want what you are selling. All right? So that's number one. You can specialize by age. Number two, you can specialize according to inherent problems. Okay? What I mean by this is, let's say, for example, your children, not your children, but your customers' children have an issue with learning styles. So if you came up with a learning style which is conducive to their condition, for example, then you could also specialize along those fields. I'm not an expert in telling you what you should specialize in because I don't know the background of your company or what is it that you do and what is your strength, what's your weakness. But if you have a strength, you should write it down and try to specialize either according to age or inherent problem. Another way which you can specialize is what we call proprietary methods. Proprietary methods, it means that if you have a special way of learning science or economics or math or drama or English, whatever, for example, like Kumon, they have popularized, or rather they have actually created a proprietary method of learning, and that is why Kumon in itself is in a vacuum. Nobody can really compete with them because nobody can say that I've come up with a similar program or a better program, because they have a unique exclusive program that you can only get if you subscribe or sign up your child with Kumon. So think about, is there a method really that you have that you could pass off as being proprietary? And one more way you could specialize is based on subject. Again, if you just specialize on math or English, it may work for some of you, it may not work for some of you. Just really think right now, if you're able to specialize based on subject, go for it. If you are not, it's okay. It might not work for you. Just try to specialize at least in one of these fields. I guarantee you that's a huge step in trying to differentiating yourself. Another way in which you can differentiate your tuition or education center is value. Add value. Lots of it. We talked about it the other day. All right, value takes form in many different ways. The first is, if for example, if you could give a free initial consultation. Let me just write this down. It might be a little small for you, but let me just repeat again. A free initial consultation that adds value. So the other tuition centers, when you call them, they simply say, this is what we do, this is my price, this is the opening hours, this is the address, come in and sign up. But if you offer something of value to the customers, parents, decision makers, and you tell them, we actually give you a free initial consultation, come in with your parent, with your child, we'll sit you down, we look at your learning style, we look at your deficiencies, we look at your strengths, we build upon those strengths and try to work on those weaknesses. That could be really something of value to the customers. So you could try to differentiate based on value, free consultation. All right. A second one is you could give them something like a parents login page where parents can just log in, look at the changes in schedule, or look at any holiday programs or any added value programs after school, etc. It just adds to the engagement and the interaction between a parent and your tuition center, and that's a good thing. All right, a login page for parents. Login page for parents, okay? And the next one is you could have something which we call a monthly or once in 2 months parent meeting or seminar or workshop that we talked about earlier. The reason for this is simple. It doesn't cost a lot of money to create a parents meeting session or say a seminar. If you're comfortable with doing that, it could be great because these sessions will prove to be a great breeding ground for referrals. Joshua, my colleague, will be talking about referrals in his slides later on. But you have to understand that this represents a great breeding ground for referrals. So you might want to differentiate yourselves based on meetings or workshops, etc. Another way you can differentiate yourself just off the top of my head is give free exam papers or free test papers. So if other tuition centers are actually selling these papers, you could actually give it out for free and give it out on a regular basis, right? So that it adds value to the child's life and it adds value to the parent's life as well. So again, that's free papers. And lastly, you could even create an online portal where children could log in and parents could log in and have an interactive forum where they exchange ideas or they exchange notes, etc. That might cost you a bit in terms of setting up or in terms of technological setup. But so if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then you don't have to use an online portal. You could use all these other things. All right. So we've discussed the why and we've discussed the how. The first how is specializing. The second how is what we call the value, adding value. And then we'll now move on to the other last differentiator right now. And the other way which you can use to differentiate yourself is what we call response time. Let's just response time, or in the same vein, customer service. Again, this really pertains a lot to your frontline staff or the person who actually picks up the phone or the person who answers your email. So you've got to employ the right person and then train that right person to do the right job at the right time and in the right manner. Right? So you've got to get all those things right, because one more way of differentiating yourself is your response time. So if somebody actually sent an inquiry email to your website or through your portal, you've got to have someone on hand to try to reply to the inquiry within 12 hours. And it's not just a canned response reply. It has to be a comprehensive, well thought out of, more or less like a script even. So it allays all the fears of the decision maker and it actually helps to lubricate the sales process, right? The response time or the customer service. You've got to go back and really train your frontline staff or employ someone who's trainable. If your current frontline staff would not listen to what is it that you have to tell them or would not play out the role that they have been paid to do, then it's time to stop the sabotaging. In my previous video, I talked about sabotage. I talked about intentional sabotage and I talked about unintentional sabotage. Again, let me just quickly recap. Intentional sabotage is done by an unhappy employee who wishes to intentionally sabotage your business by saying the wrong things to the wrong people at the wrong time, in the wrong manner, etc. But unintentional sabotage can be done or can be committed by even your best employees. Why? Because they haven't been trained to say the right things at the right time. So it's your responsibility as a business owner, not as a tuition center owner. I discussed the difference between working in your business and working on your business. From now on, if you want your business to go through the roof to the next level, to compete in the big leagues, you have to start thinking like a business owner. And that is why you have to train your frontline staff to have great response time and great customer service. Next, I want to show you why this is my least favorite method. In fact, I hate this method in order to try to differentiate. It's called pricing. Right? Everybody thinks that if you're cheaper, you're going to do better. You sell more, but you get a bit less profit each time. It's okay, but you sell more. That's what you think. But think about it. You're in the education industry. It's a premium industry. Tuition is not something we should call bread and butter in life. Some of the things that we really need in life to survive are what we call water, food, oxygen, a roof over your head, things like friends. You can look up Maslow's hierarchy for that. I'm not here to lecture you on that. But education, good education, because they do get a basic education in school. But pertaining to tuition centers, I will call that premium education because the parents have to pay. The school doesn't pay, doesn't subsidize. You have to pay for it. So when parents want a good education for their children, think about it. Do they go for price or do they go for quality? I put it to you that 85-90% of parents would most of the time choose quality over pricing. Of course, your pricing cannot be exorbitant. It cannot be extravagant. You see, let me just show you again very quickly this thing that I call the seesaw model. Again, if your value is much more than your price, then the price looks cheap. The sale gets done. You know what I mean? All right? So you've got to remember that pricing is something that you shouldn't skimp on. You shouldn't try to be the cheapest tuition center in town, the cheapest tuition center in Hougang or Whampoa or Westmore, etc. No, don't play the price game. Let me just sum it up by this one saying by someone that I heard or met before. He said this: there will always be a fool who's willing to go out of business earlier than you. Right? Because what happens when you play the price game is this. A price game has a low barrier to entry. So if you do X dollars, somebody comes in and he does X dollars minus $10, and then you try to compete and you go X minus 20, X minus 30, and you know what I call this? I call this the spiral of doom. Spiral downwards. This is really good for the parents. They love good prices, I guess. But it's really bad for the tuition industry. So never ever compete on price. Instead of competing on price, pile on the value. Look through the report that we sent to you earlier. Look through the videos that we've recorded for you earlier. And look at how you can add on value and raise the price. Get out of the pricing game instead of trying to make it cheaper and then skimping on value. I think you'd agree with me that it's better to give a great education, a great value to the students that come through your center than try to skim on price, make it cheap, but not be able to deliver what you really want to deliver. So just quickly recapping, key differentiators, very important. The why. You know why, you need to differentiate yourself by now, I hope. And the how. The S, the V, the RT, CS, and the P. Specialization, again, a doctor. A GP doesn't make as much as a specialist does. Somebody would rather go to a pet shop, a bird shop to buy a bird than to go to a general pet shop to buy a parrot. You can specialize based on age, inherent problems, proprietary methods like Kumon, or you can go based on value, where you add value over here. You can give a free initial consultation, you can give a free first trial lesson, or you can give the parents a login page, you can have monthly meetings, you can have free exam papers. For example, we've got lots more strategies, but we have no time to discuss it with you in this probably 2 hours DVD and the report, 25-page report, which we sent out to you. So if you want a free consultation with Joshua or myself, just give Joshua a ring. His number is somewhere in the report. I think it's 9108 5113. So get in touch with Joshua and he will try to expand on everything that we've covered with you.